There is a new book out, another one by Carol Leoning and Philip Rucker, both staff writers for the Washington Post. And this one is a real chiller. In the book, and by the way, I printed off a huge excerpt from the book. And I thought about sharing it with you on the podcast. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do it over the weekend. But it is rather lengthy. But it is one of the most horrifyingly fascinating accounts of someone who's gone insane while they're president of the United States, as I've ever read. I don't know how many presidents have gone insane. I think Nixon did. But Trump, oh my God. But anyway, in a much briefer bit from that book, it's reported that in the waning weeks of Trump's term, this country's top military leader repeatedly worried to his aides about what the orange vomit might do to maintain power after losing re-election, as he did. In fact, it's General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the top military commander in the United States. And he was comparing the orange vomit's rhetoric to Adolf Hitler's during the rise of Nazi Germany. And General Miller was asking his confidants and aides whether or not they felt that a coup was forthcoming. That's according to the book. I Alone Can Fix It. And what happened was, as Trump, without let up, pushed these bullshit claims about the 2020 presidential election, General Milley got more and more nervous about what was happening. And he told his aides that he was afraid that the orange vomit might attempt to use the military to stay in office. Milley described what he called a stomach-churning feeling when he listened to Trump's lies of election fraud. And that's when he drew the comparison to the 1933 attack on Germany's parliament building that Hitler used as a pretext to establish the Nazi dictatorship. According to the book, General Milley told his aides, quote, "This is a Reichstag moment, the gospel of the Führer," end quote. Jesus Christ. I mean, the top military general in the United States had to make that claim because of what he was observing. You know, the Reichstag, the burning of the German parliament building that Hitler used as a pretext to seize power. Portions of the book that are related to General Milley, and they were first reported, if you watched, last night on CNN. The book is due to release, by the way, on the 20th of this month. But portions of the book that concern General Milley show this incredible insight into the thinking of our country's highest-ranking military officer. And Milley saw himself as one of the last empowered defenders of democracy during some of the darkest days in this country's recent history. And I didn't think at the time, well, I, along with a lot of people on podcasts or talk shows, just ranted and raved and foamed at the mouth. I don't think we, the American people, realized the precipitous nature of this democracy. First of all, during the entire period that this filthy pig Donald Trump was president, but especially at the end when Trump knew he was being defeated and still does. But Milley, telling his friends, comparing Trump flat out to Adolf Hitler. And I can't help it. I can't help it. But I think about all the times over the past 4.5 years when I and other people made references to what Hitler was doing in comparison to Hitler-esque bullshit and dictatorship and fascism. And so many times people who made those comparisons, like me, were told, oh, come on, drop the Nazi shit, okay? It's very tiresome. Tiresome? That is exactly what was happening. Trump and the filth around him, including his filthy family, were using Mein Kampf as a training manual. Anyway, the episodes related in this book are based on interviews with more than 140 people, including senior Trump administration officials, who, although they were serving in the Trump administration, knew that the person under whom they served was a goddamn maniac and was getting crazier by the moment. Rucker and Leoning also interviewed friends and advisors. And they write all that. They say who they talked with. Some of them are kept anonymous in the author's note. And most of these people agreed to speak candidly, however, only on the condition of anonymity. And the scenes reported in the book were based on firsthand accounts and multiple confirming sources whenever possible. Now back to General Milley. He, if you remember, he was widely criticized for appearing alongside the Orange Vomit in Lafayette Square after the protesters were forcibly cleared from the area so this rotten son of a bitch Trump could go defile the Bible, standing there with that dumb shit look on his face, holding a Bible upside down. That was strictly so a photograph could be taken to fed to the dumb shit Christian evangelicals who saw him as just their stand-in savior. Jesus, God, these people. But Milley had pledged to use his office, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, to ensure a fair and free election with no military involvement. But he became increasingly concerned after the election was held in November. And he made multiple references to the onset of 20th century fascism, going back to Italy, Germany, Spain. He kept referring to those incidents, and not Spain so much, but certainly Germany, and to a lesser degree, Italy. But Germany was the model that Milley kept referring to, that he saw being replayed in Trump's actions. For example, after attending a November 10th security briefing about this bullshit called the Million MAGA March, remember that? A Nazi pro-Trump rally protesting the election? After attending the security briefing, General Milley said he feared an American equivalent of, quote, brown shirts in the streets, end quote. He was alluding, of course, to the paramilitary forces that protected Nazi rallies and helped Hitler gain power. This is something your humble and obedient servant here has been railing about for how long? Now, late that same evening, November 10th, it's according to the book, an old friend of his called General Milley to express concerns that the people close to Trump were attempting to, quote, overturn the government. People close to Trump, including the little Nazi bald Jew, Stephen Miller, and the other bald, or not bald, but the other rotten disgrace to Judaism, Jared Kushner. And then, of course, you have the bastard Nazi sons of Trump, Orange Vomit Jr. and Eric. And let's not forget the bitch, the Nazi equivalent of the bitch of Buchenwald, his daughter, all of them, and more. They don't give a shit and never did about democracy. We talked about this 5 goddamn years ago, about what would happen if Trump got the presidency. And not to go back through it, but I remember those times when I begged and begged people, whatever you do, don't vote for Jill Stein as a protest against Hillary Clinton, because when you do, you're voting for Trump. And when you vote for Trump, you are guaranteeing the death of democracy in this country. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.